Hey, Justice.
Hey, what's up? How you doing, Jay-Z?
It was so nice to meet you in Miami at your fund. That was such a fun Art Basel surprise.
Yeah, we'll have to get you back for sure.
Oh, I'm definitely coming. I have a ticket booked, so
Yeah, yeah. Right now I'm in San Francisco, which is a lot colder than Miami. So looking forward to getting back.
I feel you. I think everyone should go at least like once a quarter. I used to speak there all the time, so that's awesome. Well, I will do a quick intro and then we'll move on to your intro. So, CallMeJZ.ai. I am doing a lot of teaching now. I'm teaching AI design thinking. I'm also teaching AI podcasting. And what that means is reverse podcast with your guests as your intended ICPs and the people you're selling to. So, it's the website running on the bottom. And then I have your website running on the bottom too. So please tell us your quick intro.
Yeah, so Justice Mendez, originally from Cleveland, Ohio, now based in Florida. We run a pre-seed and seed venture capital fund based in the Southeast. We really focus on community building. I would say that's our biggest differentiator. We invest in enterprise software and government technology. We really love dual use companies. And right now we're writing smaller checks, 50 to 100K. But next fund two, we're going to write some bigger checks. So super excited about everything going on. Also, we've been running events all across the country, even aside from the one that you met us at in Miami. We're doing a bunch of different stuff, hosting a dinner in San Francisco. We did something in Seattle. So, yeah, stay on the lookout for the calendar and what we have next, because we'll definitely come to all the cities eventually.
Oh, it's like a tour, like you're going on
It's a
tour.
tour. It's a world tour. Yeah, so it's been fun, We use this, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but it's part of our strategy is actually the events and community side of things.
Yeah, I think that's why I love how you all started. And that's what we're going to talk about is community building for investors and founders who might have different pain points, but they always converge.
Yeah.
Well, everyone in the audience, please comment your zip code. I think 305 is, one of my favorite zip codes where you're from. But everyone, comment where you're calling in from, or if you have any questions, let us know. I need burning questions. Well, why don't you start with your website? I'm going to put it on the screen.
Perfect. Yeah. So 161, like I said, we're obviously a fund, but more importantly, we're a platform and a community. So 161, it's the golden ratio. So also known as the Fibonacci sequence. It's been used in all Leonardo da Vinci's works. It's in the DNA helix. It's everywhere in nature. And, people argue that it's the most efficient path for growth. So when we meet with founders and companies, we always like to say that we're the most efficient path for growth. And once we sign a term sheet, we always tell the founders that they have two new co-founders, me and Pablo. So, we're really active with our portfolio, trying to help make intros for them, trying to help them close clients, find additional capital, and just think overall strategy. So, we always like to be really hands-on and be as helpful as possible to everybody that we work with. But yeah, that's where you'll see up here is the golden spiral, and then we just turned it into a seal by making 4 of them. And then you can see just a little bit more about some of our portfolio companies and more about the team, and then a small little blog over there.
That's awesome. Well, tell us how you got started, because I don't think you intended to be a fund to start with, right? I'm going to remove the website because everyone's seen it.
Perfect. Yeah, so it was it was very organic, just like how we like to say 161, it's a path to organic growth. Our path was really organic. So I met my co-founder Pablo at the University of Florida in the Entrepreneurship Club. We both had early stage companies, and there just wasn't really a lot of capital happening in Florida. There was not a lot of VC, but really hard to find capital. So we wanted to solve that problem. And more importantly, all of our friends were leaving. They were leaving to go to New York or San Francisco, and as a young kid, you obviously want your friends to stay where you're at. So yeah, we started hosting events. They got really popular. I was highly curated. We would find, big investors, professors, and then early stage founders, get them all in the same room once a month. They got really popular. So we started to attach workshops and round tables. And then from there, we were like, hey, maybe one day we'll launch an accelerator. Maybe one day we'll launch a fund. But we were just passionate about building community. So going late 2019, we were like, what's our long-term vision? Like the events are cool, but what's the bigger goal? So we wrote down eventually start something like Y Combinator and eventually launch a fund. Going into 2020, the pandemic happened to everybody. So that's when we realized, people need help now more than ever. And the real leaders are going to step up. So we're like, let's go into our long-term vision because we don't know how long this is going to last. And we can't just wait on hosting events. So we literally launched a Zoom link. Yeah, we launched a Zoom link and literally created a 10-week curriculum kind of based off of what Y Combinator is doing. And literally just started hosting an accelerator, sourced companies from a bunch of different universities, and it started going amazing. So we have a 10-week curriculum, concludes with a demo day. First cohort was kind of rough, to be honest. There were some pre-product companies, and after the first cohort, we'll never do pre-product again because at the end of the 10 weeks, they were still pre-product. So
you mean like pre-product market fit, or they didn't have any idea? What does pre-product mean?
They had an idea what they wanted to do, but they're trying to get engineers, they're trying to raise some capital to be able to hire the engineers, just like literally still trying to build. So maybe
no prototype, like no design even.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So that was a big learning lesson. We learned a lot through the accelerator, but so we had 4 cohorts, 40 companies, helped them raise over $13 million. They generated over 15 million in revenue, and then one of the companies ended up getting acquired. So throughout this process, we were doing it for free just to help out founders because we're really passionate about that. But one of our mentors was like, hey, there's been $13 million transacted, right? You have to, and one of the companies got acquired. What if the next one becomes the next Facebook, Instagram, Uber, DoorDash? He's like, you have to find a way to monetize this, really build it in, because if not, you won't be able to help these companies anyway, right? You can't do it for free forever. So we went and we decided, you know what? We're going to launch a traditional fund. Because we came to the founders and asked them for equity. They said, you have no cash, so why would I give you equity, right? Then we came back to the investors on our demo days and asked for some carry. And they're like, hey, you're too young. I don't know if I can even give you carry. I have to get a lawyer involved. So we're like, the most straightforward path is literally just launching our own fund. And that's how we could, create our own destiny. So, yeah. February 2022, we launched the fund. So far, invested $2 million into 12 companies. And we're just getting started, just getting warmed up.
That's amazing. I always love the founder story because the origin story is that you were hosting events. Like, how did you provide value to the investors, which is a different value to the portfolio companies, right? Like, did they want something from you, or were they just excited to help out in the beginning?
Yeah, in the beginning, I think that it was a mixture of the two. I think usually it usually helps to be like super young. I think a lot of the other people were more accomplished, and they're like, hey, I see these 2 young kids hustling. Like, let me go check this out. And then once they came and checked it out, they're like, these are some legitimate companies. And then from there, that conversation started to shift to like, hey, you guys are seeing stuff we're not, which was super important. I mean, we were just boots on the ground hustling. Every single other accelerator and venture club and entrepreneurship club from campuses all over the country, and then founders some other intros. So we just started to really accumulate a massive pipeline of great, fantastic deals. And that's when people started to be like, wow, like I want to be a part of this.
Was there a part of it that was difficult, or was it always just like more people want more and you can give more?
Well, all of it's difficult for sure. It's still difficult today. I mean, because you know, we always think this about like great. We hear this from great founders too that had like huge exits. They're like, you're moving fast and growing super fast when it always feels like you're drinking out of a fire hose, right? Like you're always constantly taking on more than you could like almost barely handle. It's like you're just barely like up to your nose in water and you're trying to breathe. So like that's been the whole entire journey because we've been moving so fast. It's like every single second has to be thoughtful and precise because every second counts, especially when you're trying to move as fast as we are. So like we're always hosting events, trying to close a deal, trying to raise capital, trying to build the brand, all at the same time. So it's like every single second we're doing all of the full stack at all times. So yeah, I think it's been an amazing journey and super fun, super challenging, but like wouldn't trade it for anything.
What advice do you give to other accelerators that are trying to also start out? What mistakes should they avoid or how should they ask for help?
Yeah, I think partnerships and distribution channels are super important. Like I see like a lot of funds or accelerators. I think that they don't think, especially a lot of accelerators. Let's start with that. They don't look at themselves as much of like a traditional fund, right? Like they're like, hey, let's get in a whole bunch of companies and hope that one or two of them is like successful. But I think you need to think of it like a fund. Instead of having 50 people in a cohort, maybe have 10 people in a cohort. There was times when we were like, hey, there's 8 companies in this cohort, and let's just close it with that because we didn't feel the quality was at a high enough standpoint. So at the end of the day, like that type of pedigree and having these amazing companies is what attracts other companies long term to want to apply. If they're like every single company that comes out of the program is great, then everybody else will want to apply to it too. So just being like very thoughtful and precise and like methodical, I think is like super important for every program. And then making sure that you have a pipeline of great opportunities, right? Like partnering with universities, talking to professors, being like, hey, who in your class is amazing? Send me their info. And most people are relying on the founders to come to them. But when we first started, we were doing outbound to founders. We're like, hey, we like what you're building. We like who you are. We heard great things. Like, do you want to be a part of this program? So like we were hopping on calls, not to be like, hey, we'll see if we let you in. We're hopping on calls to be like, hey, you should be. We're trying to sell them on the program. Isn't that crazy? So it was like reverse. Yeah.
I'm sure they felt the love. That's such a great feeling to be scouted, right?
Right, for sure. And I think that that's what so many people are missing. I think that they're like, I'm building this funnel and we're going to get a bunch of good stuff. But at the end of the day, the best founders aren't thinking like, hey, yeah, I want to be a part of your like mediocre program. They're like, hey, either I want to go to YC or I just want to continue to build and raise. So, we're like, hey, let me sell you on why you should be a part of what we're doing. And I think that that's kind of like the big gap that we started to fill super early.
How do you scout? So, Primary Networks is a community that I'm part of, and they actually have dedicated scouts, but you're talking about professors and
Right.
industry experts, not just other portfolio companies. So how do you scout?
Yeah, all of those, all of the above. We talk to founders, right? We and see from other founders. We're looking online to see like who's pumping out amazing content, like trying to be a thought leader in the industry, and then
Mm.
like go out and see that because those are the kind of things. It's like almost reverse engineering it, and in a way, those are the people that really become the outliers. Is like who's doing what we need to see to make it, right? Like maybe you're becoming a thought leader and you're pumping out a blog and all this stuff. I find your blog and I'm like, hey, if you keep doing this long term, like you'll continue to convert customers, just like how you're doing through the podcast. So like seeing somebody doing something like that and reaching out to them, like I think that's a fantastic way to go about things.
Yeah, that's really interesting that People follow me on Substack, especially investors now. I'm like, how did this happen? Like, I don't know you, and
Right.
that's really amazing.
It's fantastic. Yeah. If you just keep doing what you're doing, it'll keep compounding. And I think people quit 3 feet from gold, right? Like they'll do like 10 episodes or 10 blog posts. And then they're like, you know what? I'm kind of sick of this, or I don't see the traction that I thought I was going to see. And a lot of these people like a Mr. Beast or, these big brands, they're like, I posted for years with nobody at all clicking on what I was posting. And so, yeah, no, kudos to you. Keep doing what you're doing. Love it.
Wait, so Mr. Beast didn't go viral the first time he posted?
No, not at all. First video, 10 million views. Yeah, I wish it was that easy.
Yeah, I host a weekly Friday repost party. And so you take, the post that you've been working on in the beginning of the week and you share it and we repost it. And, we go through everyone just to help them boost their reach because the algo really loves, 10 comments in the first hour and then you'll get bumped up. So I think it is about building that kind of intentional, precise community that you're talking about.
Absolutely. And that's one thing for all the founders, for all the fund managers, especially if you're an emerging fund, like that's what I think is the missing piece with a lot of these great, they're great. They're super talented and they're building something super cool, but I think they're really missing that community piece. And, I believe, in the next 10, 20 and beyond years, all the great founders and all the great fund managers specifically are going to be people who are really building ecosystems and really building great communities, because that flywheel, when it starts to compound, just opens up insane amount of doors and just really creates so much value for everybody involved. So, you need additional capital, you need technical hires, you need, whatever you could possibly want is within this community, and you're the focal point because you built it. And people will be willing to help build community around your product, build community around your internal team. Like there's so many different things I think people are kind of like overlooking. And when they hear community, everybody uses that word. So they're just like, oh, okay, it's just like a fun networking event or something. It's more than that.
Yeah. So anyone in the audience who has a question, please comment it. We'll answer it right now. But my question is, I think there are many ways to build community. I was going to ask you where the best parties are because I think in Miami. But, what are...
Yeah, the best parties are in Miami for sure. They're very different. It's funny because we travel a lot and every ecosystem is so different. So like you'll be in SF and maybe an event will have, a bunch of technical founders. You'll go to Seattle, it'll be a mix of, enterprise leaders and technical founders. Then you go to Miami and it's a bunch of founders and then there's flamethrowers and jet skis. And it's just like, it's crazy. But maybe they need to tone it down a little bit and start to get back to work. But but it's a lot of fun for sure. Everything is about fun. And I like to live my life like that actually too. Is if I'm not having fun, I don't want to be a part of it anymore, right?
Yeah, so you started with events and parties, but then let's say you're a technical founder and you're great at Discord. You write, you answer questions, you're a big part of a Discord or Slack channel, but then you're not really good at in-person events. How do you know that you've created community, whichever channel it's in, whether in person or online? Like, how do you know that it's working?
That's a fantastic question. I would say it's working when people are trying to get in, right? Like people are like, hey, I heard about XYZ. Hey, I heard that this is fantastic. And like, how can I be a part of it? How can I contribute to the ecosystem as well? If you have an ecosystem that you're the only one posting in the Slack or Discord and you're the only one pumping out stuff, then it's probably not as valuable. You really like people want to be like, hey, send me that invite link. Hey, I want to post in here too, because I see everybody else is bringing value. So I think that that's a really good way. I think for super technical founders, I think get out there. There's something about being in person that's just completely different. And, I give this analogy all the time, but like you can have the best idea, you could write the best speech ever, but if nobody hears it, right? It goes into the void and it just disappears for all of eternity. So you have to be in front of people and you have to be out there and really put yourself out there. So, back to you, great job doing the podcast, because you could have these thoughts and just put them into the
Oh,
void, but
thanks.
you're like doing it publicly and, posting all over. And it's fantastic to see. And long term, this will continue to compound.
Yeah, so I have this amazing guy, Greg, in my repost party, and he's like on Threads. He has like 80 to 100 comments on each post. And I'm like, how did you get there? And so for the people who, didn't get there on day one, how long should they be trying it and then giving up if they don't find traction?
In the product or in the community?
In the community.
Yeah, I wouldn't say give up, but I would just say maybe try something different. Like, I would just kind of map things out. Sometimes I like to either create a mental map or like a physical map of like, okay, what is everything that I'm doing, right? So like for 161, we have the fund, and then we have maybe our program at UF, and then we have the events that we do like really seeing, like mapping it out. What am I really doing? So then like let's say, okay, I have a community. Okay, I have the Discord. What does the Discord bring? Discord shares events. Does it share job postings? Does it share, like, really think like, what am I doing? From there, you'll be able to work your way backwards and see what am I doing wrong, or maybe what am I missing. And I think you really have to be heads on with talking to the people that are in your channels and being like, what are you looking for? Right? 'Cause at the end of the day, I think too many people go through life building what they want and not building what the market wants. So it's like, hey, what are you guys looking for? Do you guys want me to post more events? Do you guys want to post more jobs? Do you guys want more technical expertise and help? Do you want blog posts? And then like people will tell you what they want. Just give them what they want.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Thank you.
I love that because getting the feedback, I'm all about design thinking and customer obsession. So getting the feedback from, is this helping you? Like, would you?
Absolutely. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. What would help you the most? And you'll start to see these common themes. And we talk about this with founders all the time. I'm just like, hey, how many customer discovery calls are you having? Like, yeah, you having a sales call, that's completely different, right? Like you're not just like asking like, and once you do have the sale, how often are you repeating those conversations? Like, hey, what do you really like about the product the most? What are some of the things that you wish can be different? And after you have 100 of these, you can start to see these common themes. 80% of the people said that they didn't like this worked. The 80% of the people said that they wish they had this feature. And you'll really start to see these common themes. And those are like impossible to ignore. And if you do ignore them, like you're for sure going to fail. So I always just like to really come back to like those conversations and asking people and just like kind of getting that feedback. It's invaluable.
Yeah. So I talk to a lot of, AI founders, especially AI video. It's my niche. And they say that their users won't talk to them. Like, there's a different AI video product every single day. And their users are distracted. They sign up. I mean, I do this too. I sign up for like all of them and I don't always engage with them. So how do you find the people who are going to be receptive? So for example, on Reddit, people get into fights, and those are definitely the people who are like super engaged. But then for the people who are like, I just signed up for 100 AI products, like how do you get them to come back?
Come back to your Substack or blog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult question. I would say instead of getting people to come back, just find people who want what you have. Like, I don't want to force somebody to maybe like what I have. I just want to find in different areas people who want what I have. So like, and this even comes down to like finding LPs and investors. Maybe our story isn't the right story for them, and maybe they're not the right LP. And I think really honing in on like who you are and your true intentions, I think just speaks volumes, and you'll find people who believe what you believe instead of like trying to convince somebody to come back, just finding and posting in different channels people who are looking for what I have.
Yeah, I think that involves being really clear about what you have, but then not changing it, right? Not
Right.
making that fit this pitch or that investor, and just being like, introduce me to someone else who's a better fit for me.
Right. Absolutely. And by the way, I need your glasses. I need them.
Oh. We'll get you a pair.
The men's pair.
Yeah, I'd love to. We definitely need to do a selfie if we
Yeah,
both get them.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, we need to get you a T-shirt too, so you can wear it in the podcast.
Oh yeah, definitely. We need to get the Gucci ones and then both wear them.
Yes,
For like a photo shoot.
100%, for sure. It's pretty cool. We put the seal on the back. I don't know if you can see that, but we have the Fibonacci spiral.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, as the seal on like the back of the shirts too. So it's like something different. It's funny enough because we were thinking like maybe we should put a merch store on our website and maybe we should like sell merch. It's crazy how many people come up to us and compliment just like our swag. Like we have hoodies, we have some bomber jackets that we sent to LPs, we have some t-shirts. But like I was in New York and this lady comes up and she was like, "Hey, can I purchase those?" She was like, "Where'd you get that?" And I was like, "It's our fund." She was like, "Can I buy 2 of them?" And I didn't even think about that. I'm like, "Dang!" And this keeps happening. People are like, "Can I purchase some of those?" So maybe I should just like start selling the swag.
You should definitely sell the swag.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah, she was just like, "Yeah, I feel like it's just like so different, and I don't know what it is." And like, it always sparks conversation. People always come up like, "What's 161?" So it's like it's really cool. And the seal, it's like that's the logo. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, so I wore some really other like really loud glasses, and we got into the Tribeca Film Festival
See?
at Art Basel for no reason. They were just like, "Hey, you guys should come," and it was so fun.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, we one of our friends owns a company called Vestium, and it's like a suit company, custom suits. You saw us on stage. Remember, I had the striped suit.
Oh, the pinstripe.
The pinstripe suit, yeah. And it's so crazy because like the amount of people that come up to you when you're wearing something like that and really standing out it's worth all the marketing dollars in itself. The day before that, we were at a different event for Emerge. It's called Tech Basel. Sorry, it used to be called something else. But yeah, I wore all red linen suit and like the amount of people that just came up like I love that. It was like totally worth it.
Yeah, it's about being yourself, which for us is standing out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Gotta stand out, which you did.
Well, I guess 2 quick questions and then we'll probably close. So, in terms of your fund, like how can people buy the merch, help out? Like what is the problem that you're solving right now?
Yeah, I think that we have a lot of different ways that people can get involved. So I think a great way obviously is to reach out to us. We have a lot of events. So any other investors who would love to be a speaker, any other great founders would love to be a speaker. We host events all over the country. So either you can come to where we're going to be next, or we might be in your city at some point. Another way of getting involved is just like coming in as a mentor to some of the portfolio companies. We have a lot of great founders working on some cool stuff. So whether it's in the portfolio or another company within our network, we're always looking for potential mentors and clients. And then founders reach out. We always love to mentor and help them out. And then aside from that, other investors always hit us up.
Awesome.
A few great ways. Yeah, we're going to be doing something February 21st is Gainesville Tech Week. So we're going to have a lot of great investors and founders there. We're doing something in New York City in March. And then we have a bunch of other events spread out throughout the calendar year. So those are the next 2 events. And we just did something in Seattle last week. So we're moving fast.
Awesome. That sounds so fun. I think it's like a road show, like a
It is.
band
It's
on tour.
Yeah, we're on tour. So
Well, then the
price is cheap.
what's that?
Get us while the tickets are cheap.
Get in at the ground level when the tickets
At the
are
ground
cheap.
level, exactly. For sure.
Well, the last question I'll ask you is, investors in portfolio companies have very different pain points. So what are some ways that they diverge? Like what do investors need that portfolio companies wouldn't even know?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
How did the problems of investors differ from the problems of portfolio companies?
Yeah, in a lot of different ways. And I'm not sure if maybe I misunderstood the question, but I was gonna say we literally just had this conversation that for an investor, I think that founders always forget that investors also need to raise themselves. So like
Mm,
as an investor, like very few people like unless you're a family office, like most all GPs and investors, like they have to go find LPs to invest in their fund. So I would say like it's harder, in my opinion, to raise as a fund than it is as a founder. Because like as a founder, you're like, hey, this is my coffee mug. I'm raising for, I sell coffee mugs. I've done 1 million in revenue. This is my market. This is my distribution. This is what I'm doing. Give you the whole spiel on the business. As a fund manager, you're like, this is my idea and thesis, and this is how I'm going to execute. And I don't know exactly which company. You might have a few warehouse deals that you're like, hey, I'm looking at these 3 deals, and this is like a flavor of what I'll do. But you don't have all of the companies lined up that you're going to invest in. So you're more so investing in like an idea of investing in 30 other ideas. So it's like crazy versus like a founder who's just like, hey, you're investing in this one individual product or service, so it's very different. Um, yeah, so I think that they really need to understand that. Also, I think a lot of founders need to understand like how venture works. And I feel like that's also sometimes the big disconnect is that they're like, hey, this is what I'm building, but they're not explaining to investors like this is how you get a return on capital. They're just explaining how this can be a cool business, but not like explaining to them like this is how big the market is. This is how we're going to be able to have this outsized return for your portfolio. Because like if we have an exit that's, we're small. So as a bigger fund, if you have an exit that's $100 million company, that doesn't really move the needle for them, right? Like they need $1 billion exit. So it's like you're not showing them how you're going to be that $1 billion exit to pay for all the other losses within the fund. So that power law. So I think that that's something that founders really just need to tell a better story on and educate themselves on venture.
yeah, so the founders should always be setting themselves up as that cash cow, that one,
Absolutely.
winner.
That's why they call them the unicorn, right? that
But
one.
then, yeah, that one winner. But then for LPs, how do you even find them? Because there's so few, they don't, they're very private. They don't really publish like what their thesis is. So,
That's an amazing question. So for us in the beginning, luckily me and Pablo both built out like our own personal brands, and we had a lot of high net worth individuals that we were learning from. And were like mentors to us that saw us kind of, building the ecosystem and community and doing cool stuff. So luckily we had like a good solid starting base of high net worths that could come in and write some, smaller checks, but still regardless checks. But for as you start to scale, those high net worths aren't gonna come on as like a fund three and write you a $10 million check. Maybe some of them might, but not a lot of them. So that's when you need to really start hustling, meeting these family offices, these institutional LPs, the endowments, stuff like that. And we meet them through a lot of the community building that we're doing, and also really hustling on LinkedIn. Like we hustle so hard on LinkedIn, just outreach, setting up meetings, and you're not trying to close on the first deal, but you're explaining what you do, kind of building the relationship early, and really just explaining to them like, hey, this is the bigger vision. And then when the time is right, hopefully they'll be a part of what you're building if they like it.
I thought I was like one of the few people so addicted to LinkedIn, but now I realize you are too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Our firm was built off LinkedIn, for sure.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, especially because I mean, when we first got started, it was during the pandemic, and launching the accelerator and stuff. So we're just like always hustling on LinkedIn. A lot of our mentors, a lot of people who are advisors, it's just like cold outreach. And we have just organic short messages that are just like, hey, we'd love to connect. And we're really focused on building the relationship instead of selling them something. So that's how you kind of start to harvest and cultivate these relationships long term.
What do you offer them as a give instead of an ask when you're doing a cold outreach?
It depends. Sometimes it's intros to other people who are like them. So, other great investors, other great mentors, other great advisors. Sometimes we'll offer companies. And then sometimes, what's unique enough? Sometimes we'll offer our ear. So, you know what? Sometimes, and I learned this from one of my biggest mentors. I asked him, I said, hey, if you could give me a piece of advice, if I was your son, what would you give me? And he goes, just shut up. He was like, yeah, literally. Yeah, literally. He was like, I'm putting you in front of 9-figure, 10-figure guys. Everybody knows you're smart, right? But you keep trying to prove to them that you're smart and you have connections. They're like, they don't need your intelligence or your connections. They actually are spending their time with you because they want to mentor you and see you grow. So just shut up and listen. And I'm like, wow, that was like so profound because like some of these people, they don't
Drop
need
the mic.
Drop the mic, right? Literally. They don't need anything from you. So it's like literally like, hey, I just want to help you. If you're just wanting to like listen and just like be a good person, like I'll help you. So sometimes it's just like just sitting there and lending them your ear and just showing them that you're executing on the advice that they give you and just staying engaged long term.
I think that's really great because you're talking about asking for help. And I noticed that a lot of leaders and senior people, they get really afraid of learning something new because they're like, I should already know the answer. And then lots of young people who are inexperienced are like, well, why would they want to help me? So let's close on this. Like, how should people ask for help?
Yeah. I think showing first, like, hey, I have a little bit of it, like asking for help to be like an astronaut and you've never taken a space class and you've never, it's like, okay, this is irrational and you're never going to accomplish it. I think, but being like, hey, I already have A, B, and C done. I would love for you to show me D, E, F, G, whatever, I just probably messed up the alphabet, but yeah. So just like coming to them like, hey, I'm already kind of started and being very specific on your ask, instead of just being like, hey, teach me VC. They're like, what? But it's like, hey, I already started to launch a fund. I would love to know your due diligence process, learn how I can become more process oriented, learn how, and come with a very specific ask. I think is like super, super valuable and super important because most of the time, these people want to help. I want to help, and I'm not even at that level. But once you get to that level, it's like, okay, what's going to make me happy? More money, another house? Like, not really, but like seeing somebody else and the satisfaction. Sorry, been talking all day of making them happy and putting a smile on their face. Like, puts a smile on my face, and that's just like human nature.
Drop the mic.
Drop the mic.
Well, everyone go to 161group.com, connect with you on LinkedIn, and ask for each other's help and referrals.
Perfect. Yeah, the website's 161.ventures now. But yes,
okay.
Perfect. And yeah, we'll include the link and just reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on I don't know what else is out there. Yeah, just find me. It's just my first and last name. So always willing to connect, always looking to help. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Always want to spend 10, 15 minutes of my time. Like I always tell people, I spend 50% of my time being a mentee, 50% of my time being a mentor. So, always looking to help out and be there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you. And I hope to see you soon in Miami. I better.
Oh, yeah. Tickets booked. All right. So you and I will stay on the call, but I'm going to end the live stream part. So we're going to say goodbye. Okay. Thanks, everyone.